Hello and welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. I am Suleiman. One takeaway from what he's saying is that zoning may not be constitutional, but or democratic. It is democratically convenient. So if it is democratically convenient, it is probably constitutional as well, or democratic as well. But we have a situation now in Nigeria where you have two major parties. One party has zoning enshrined in its constitution, that's the PDP. Article 7.2 of the PDP says that on the basis of fairness, zoning, the presidency of Nigeria and other political offices within the PDP itself, but also across the country, should be rotated from time to time between the north and south. But the APC doesn't have zoning in its own constitution. So how does that play out for Nigeria and Nigerians? Which model would they follow? Because you have two major parties. When one party is in opposition, they'll be talking about zoning as they believe it, as it is in their constitution. But then another party will be saying that it is not in our constitution, we don't believe in it. Wouldn't that lead to more confusion in the land?
You see, mostly when people mention zoning, they are talking about the zoning of the presidency. But a lot of times people will say power. Power should remain here, or power should go back there, or power should come from here. Do you understand?
Yes.
And I believe that all of these things have to do with the culture of politics we happen to find ourselves in.
Okay.
And if you talk about, zoning or shifting of power somewhere, when you aggregate, power is not only the presidency. There are other levers of power.
Okay.
The legislature, the judiciary, then you also have the civil service, the economy itself, the military, the police, and almost everything under the sun. You can aggregate and determine where power lies. And power may not necessarily lie, where the presidency is. So it is very important that certain things are done, to emancipate Nigerians out of this confusion. And to say that it is only when someone comes from my backyard as the president, for example, that I can enjoy the good things of life. I think that attitude must be discouraged.
Thank you.
I believe that what must be done and what ought to be done, and some of us insisted since 1999, I was Speaker in the House of Representatives.
Yes. That
we must build our political institutions.
Okay.
And that this idea of, propping strong men is wrong.
Okay.
And that was why we fought up to the time I left the House of Representatives.
Thank you.
We fought strong men because they refused to allow democracy to thrive.
When the government says e-naira, what does it really mean?
Okay, I think in a nutshell, e-naira is just, if I may go this way, the E is electronic.
Okay.
The naira is just like you have it, the name. Naira has been in existence, is our currency. Okay. Now the E is where people are getting to get confused about it. The E is just the aspect of the digital, the electronic form of the naira in existence. That's simply what e-naira is, the electronic form of the existing naira you have.
So how is it different from the existing naira? Because is it going to be in some cash or some coins, or how is it going to look?
As the word implies, electronic, just because you cannot feel the electronic form of anything. If you have a hard copy like you have a paper here now, there is electronic form of what you have, which you cannot feel. That's the only thing. This is a flat money, the naira, where you can use it, you can feel it. You also can have it in a bank, which is in a digital form, which simply means that you can also do transactions using the electronic means. But the e-naira is a version of what you have in a digital or electronic form. Yes, any other transaction, you can also conduct transaction on the same naira using the electronic form. But here you have it in a digital form, a digital version of the existing naira. That's what e-naira is.
Thank you. Maula Abdulaziz, some people would say that we've always had electronic forms of the naira. For example, even before the e-naira, the amounts of money in your bank accounts, in our bank accounts, you know, the ones that our ATMs transact in between them, all of these are carried out by electronic means. So how is this e-naira different?
Well, so this e-naira is fundamentally different in the sense that, as the last speaker said, it's not something that is tangible. It's not something that you can touch. For example, the naira in your bank account, you can actually cash it. But the e-naira in your wallet, there is what is called wallet. Because with this e-naira policy, as from yesterday, Nigerians can actually download an app, whether on iOS devices or on Android devices, and open what is called wallet. That is the e-naira account, so to speak, in which they can fund from maybe their account into that wallet. And fundamentally, this e-naira is a currency that doesn't attract charges. It doesn't attract interest. So therefore, it is like there. It's not something that, and that is why it is also domiciled in the CBN, not like your accounts, which is domiciled with the financial, with the commercial banks. So that is fundamental difference. And also, I think for me, the major driver or the major takeaway from it is that it will drive financial inclusion. That is the part I'm most passionate about. Because it will mean that one doesn't need bank account, which of course as Nigerians...
But how is it going to drive financial inclusion in a country where the up to say 50-60% of the population or even more do not already have bank accounts? For example, millions of Nigerians in the rural areas do not have even the existing accounts in the existing situation. So how is it going to improve inclusion?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Because it has cut off the protocol of going to bank to open an account. So you just download the app, and then you can fund it maybe from POS, even if you don't have a bank account, or somebody can transfer the money into your wallet.
Please
add. To add to what he's saying, it simply means that, if I may say, the prerequisite is that you must own account. You must have an account with the existing bank, because whatever you are going to transfer to your e-wallet has to be an existing naira you have. Like I said, you must own a naira to turn it to e-naira. The naira you have is just that you are going to the digital form of the same existing naira you have. Now you must own a bank account with any of the commercial banks. When you have an account, what it means is simply that by the time you download the app, we talked about that.
So there will be no inclusion. It just means that it is those who already are banked that will now be banked on the new e-naira. There's no new people, because inclusion means to bring in new people who previously did not have bank accounts.
But not to take away the fact that won't be one or two people who will be interested because it's called e-naira and decides to open an account to conduct their transaction. So definitely you have someone who is enthusiastic about it and thinks that, okay, I want to own this. Oh, what's the requirement? You must own a bank account. I walk down to a bank, open an account, and transfer the entire money I could open an account and pay in ₦1 million and transfer the same 1 million from the commercial bank to the e-wallet. It simply means that you needed to have that prerequisite requirement, which means you have to have an own account and move that cash you have in your house to the bank, and now move it to your e-naira so that you can settle the transaction. So the essence of the e-naira is just giving you another additional option for settlement of transaction to the business community.
Malam Shehu Gaban, as a politician and National Secretary of the Social Democratic Party, what exactly is going on in the PDP?
Well, I will say this straight ahead, that PDP have drilled from the original ideology that was developed by the founding fathers of the party, who have sacrificed their life, forfeited their individual differences, and decided to come together and form a formidable party that can govern the country and take the military back to barrack. That was the reason why the likes of Let Rimi, Sula Lamido, Chief Solomon Lar, and so on and so forth, had the first meeting that's called G7. All issues were discussed, ideas were generated how to build a mega party. At the G34, Alex Okome and others were invited to make it a national platform.
Is the PDP still a mega party now? Can we still call it a mega party?
It cannot be a mega party because they have, like I've said, they have drilled. I've been a founding member of the party from its foundation stages. I know all processes that led to the development of PDP. You know, the elections and so on and so forth. The party that have ruled for 16 years to drop to this level, you know that they have disconnected with their foundation. They have disconnected with the original vision of the founding fathers of the party. People who have no idea of what it takes to run a political structure have hijacked a political structure. So the issue of fairness, justice, and equity within the party is gone. You have imposition, just the way you summarize the issue of the incoming chairman by consensus. They cannot even afford to have an election, just like the way PDP had consensus. So these are issues that kill political party. It takes a career politician to manage a political structure.
So if they are no longer a mega party, Malam Ilyas, you've been a veteran journalist and public affairs commentator for a long time, and also a diplomat. If they are no longer how can we describe the PDP now?
Well, straight away, I think we don't have to pull any punches describing PDP. It is sleepwalking to disaster. And it's a party that has derailed, as my colleague here has said, from its original concept. It's a party that has, lost its bearings. It's a party that is heading straight to the abyss. And there's nothing that can save it because, as he rightly said, the people who did not know, who did not connect with the original concept of the party are hijacking the party. They have no sense of ownership, no sense of decorum, no sense of what it takes to run a political party. Their own idea of running a political party is to create confusion here and there so that their own ideas, their own agenda can, prevail over the party. This is not the party of Chief Solomon Lar, the party of Rimi, the party of Alex Okwemi. This is just an all-comers affair, a bazaar. So PDP will get its comeuppance, and that's it.
The PDP has gone through a lot. They were in power for 16 years, and then they have been out of power for 6 years. But being out of power for 6 years, they look like they have been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking from 23 states in 1999 to just about 10 or 13 states today. Are they going downhill? Are they going to be extinct? Is there going to be, are we seeing the death sentence of the PDP?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator and viewers. Let me from the onset say that my answers may sound a little bit immodest. and sometimes I may appear, in my answer may be a little bit arrogant.
That's
but
all.
it's because, in trying to set the facts of history,
Yes.
people who begin to look at us and begin to think for us how we should behave, how we as a political party, where we should go. Shouldn't they know that PDP has got a very, very clear history when it was formed in 1998. Yes. I've been saying this over and over for the last how many years that arising from the injury of June 12,
yes,
when a election was annulled, the country went through some kind of crisis of lack of trust between the components of the country. The culture of hate began to emerge and distrust or mistrust.
Okay.
And when Abacha came on board after removing Shoneka, it was very clear that all his arrangement for transition were being guided towards his own personal succession in Nigerian president. And we felt that having gone what went through from independence, civil war, crisis, coup upon coup, and all the destruction in terms of democracy, we felt that we need a very, very genuine democracy. Democracy should be able to unite Nigerians, restore trust, restore empathy, restore love, and then by the to so that we can be bounded by our common humanity. Now, so when Abacha unleashed his own transition, we found that it may not last, it may not work, because it was simply skewed towards his own interest. So nine of us at that time, when you say G7,
yes,
it was G9.
G9, okay.
Our elder then, late Ella Kweme, late Bola Ige, late Santa Ella, late Adam Chiroma, late Solomon La, late Abubakar Rimi.
So how does it feel now that all of them are late and you are the only one standing? Does it mean that there's a disconnect between what you believed then and what the PDP is now?
You see, it's not about, it's about the ideas behind the formation of the group for the bigger picture called Nigeria. So when we formed this group, we said we will not participate in the Abacha's transition because we do not think it will take us anywhere in Nigeria. Because you cannot heal Nigeria if you don't address June 12. A chunk of the country felt, offended, felt maybe cheated or whatever. So we said, what do we do in this new transition to ensure that those who are apparently not happy, who seem to have lost faith in Nigeria, whereby you begin to have seen countries like Afenifere and Nadeko and the others trying to divide the country. What do we do to pacify them? Because in 1968 independence, Nigeria was formed of vision for leaders, clear vision for leaders. I've been saying late Olo, late Azukwe, late Balewa, Sunan Sokoto, Aminikano, Taraka, and many others. It independent, they had a vision for Nigeria, a country which by its population, even then, is a leader in Africa, leader of the black race. A country well endowed with all resources, both underground and on the surface. So Nigeria at independent, was dualizing, playing a sovereign role as an independent nation, at the same time also playing a role of leader of the black race. Because there is nowhere in the world you have this assembly of people, that number in Nigeria. So it means Nigeria should be black man's reference point. Should be inspiring.
Were this part of the LDs of the PDP at the time?
No, that's what the history of Nigeria in 1960. And therefore, this vision, this history, this desire, this ambition, this hope, was crushed by the civil war after the war. And then from there, it should begin to appear of religion, ethnicity, and then personal ambitions. And we are manipulating each other. So in 1998, we said, look, what do we do after June 12th? And about it there, how do we work out so they know that we fight his administration in terms of the ambition he's pursuing? Not the government, but his ambition. And we met in Lagos, at number 9 Raymond Joko Street in Ikoyi. I know these 9 people. And we talked with them that we will not partake in a budget transition. And that we are going to, no matter we're going to, use any platform and fight it. Of course, after that, I think Bola Ige and somebody said, look, we trust each other here. We know ourselves. Solely the youngest here. But then you see, from the look, from the things I say, Remy, I trust you. Solomon, I trust all of you, I know you. But then to us, we think Abacha is pursuing a northern agenda. So you're trying to use us to give me a wider platform. That's what he said. So if you want us to believe in what you are saying, go to the north and form a group which is going to fight Abacha. If you do so, symbolically, the ATM are serious, the ATM will join you. So we came back. No, I think Remy was trying to say, I said, no. I think it's a challenge which is very genuine. It's a genuine challenge. If we're sincere, if we beat it, well, let's go. We came back to the north, went to Adumichiro House, sat down, and from G18, which was purely a northern formation to fight Abacha's transition in terms of his own personal ambition, not the government. And so...
But did Abacha, did he see it that way? Did he see that you were fighting just his ambition, or you were fighting?
That's his own business.
And his
that's his own belief.
Okay.
He saw us as his own enemy.
But was that only his own? Because many people were imprisoned at the time, including yourself and Remy.
Take it easy. Take it easy.
Yes.
Let me get the facts in sequence.
Okay.
So after the meeting of G18, we wrote a memorandum to Abacha, a very, very tough one, challenging his transition. And they will not participate. So we all signed. Now, after signing, the issue was who was going to submit it to Abacha. Because Abacha then was just like a lion. Who was going to the lion?
Everybody was afraid.
So Solomon said, look, of all of you, I'm the oldest. Adam Chiroma, others, Loketa, Musa Muslim, let me take it to him. In the event I'm picked up and I vanish from the scene, I have been, no matter what, please keep on with the struggle. Keep on with the struggle. So he took it to Abacha, to the villa. That same night, me and Remy drove back to Abuja. That same night, we were picked up by SSS. That same night. And we're only after Abacha died. So that's the history.
And these details are not out there in the public. People are not so aware of them.
You see, sometimes, leadership has some problems. You don't keep on saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Anyway, so when Abacha died, Australia became on board. We were released from prison, me and Remy. We said, fine. But then G30 was being formed. So we met again in Jerry Gana's house. Many other, Northern Mandate. And the other group, what do you do with the political party? How do you for a political party? We should be able to first address and cure the injury of June 12. Because there is no way you can move an inch if you don't have the June 12 issue. Because it will divide Nigeria.
Prof, was it the right decision that they took at the time?
You see, they have records. Their activities from when they started gathering and the activities of Nadeko, we shouldn't forget the other part also, have given them credence. He, Alhaji Sule had been one man standing, and the last man standing, as you said, in the PDP. And when they came back from Lagos, those activities they did really portray their nationalism.
It's been 12 years now since Nigeria, this Boko Haram issue started, and Nigerians have seen the worst of it. But in the past 1 year or so, so many things have changed. Shekau has finally died, because he's died many times over now, And then 3 or 4 or 5 leaders have died. Many commanders have been killed. Many people have surrendered. Do you see that we are at that threshold where we can now begin to say that this is finally coming to an end?
I wish I could say that. I think the military have done an amazing job. I think they have reduced the ranks of Boko Haram, and also infighting within the different groups have also reduced the ranks. But I think Boko Haram or ISWAP, Islamic State West Africa Province, it's an organization that mutates.
Okay.
So as you see, as soon as they kill a leader, another one emerges. They have a long-term, decades-long strategy. And unfortunately, the movement has become internationalized now.
Okay.
They are linking with jihadi groups all over the world. I think the fall of the Afghanistan government also opens a new front where we don't know what the links with Islamic State that operates in Afghanistan will bring. They get inspiration, they get money, they get training, they get mentorship from jihadi groups all around the world. And sadly to say, whereas some of the conflict is reducing in the northeast, and you're quite right when you say that the Sheikho group has in a way been decapitated, a lot of the commanders have surrendered to government, but a lot have also pledged allegiance to Islamic State West Africa Province.
Okay, thank you. Distinguished Senator, we have this situation where what the doctor has just described. But even the fall of Afghanistan, some people are saying that that too is in fact an indication that the so-called global war on terror is ending, rather than a renewed chapter in it.
Well, I think it's important that we understand that the global jihadist network, as much as they are global, they are also local. They are interlinked and interrelated with each other. And that makes the whole idea of combating terrorism so complex. If we can go back to history, you can see that, you can recall that Boko Haram started as a local jihadist group, and then it evolved, pledging allegiance to Al-Qaeda. Yep. And now, over the years, we have seen how this mutation of having Ansaru and then ISWAP all coming in from that terror group. And it will not be wrong to say also that the activities of this terrorist group in northeastern part of Nigeria inspired the banditry in the West.
Okay.
But
how so?
Yeah. The inspiration has to do with the fact that these Islamist terror groups engage in kidnapping, apart from having a theocratic agenda of establishing their own illusionist and imaginary Islamic caliphate. Yes. They kidnap school children and extort ransom. Now, the bandits in the Northwest kept aside the theocratic agenda of the terror groups and simply adopted the financial aspect of it to kidnap,
the operational tactics,
and to extort money, and to lay siege, impose fines. This is what we have. So if you are now going back to what is happening in Afghanistan, I can see that the emergence of the Taliban has simply emboldened terror groups globally, that it is possible to pick up arms against the state and take over power. If you can recall, that was the inspiration of ISIS in Iraq and in Syria. But that dream was extinguished by a global coalition. So now, our own jihadist group in Africa, you can see how they have been launching attacks and violent killings of people and state forces in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger. So it is not possible to simply, by fiat, extinguish a terror group like this. Each time you have the elimination of a leader, you have another one coming to take over his seat. So perhaps this is a battle of the 21st century that we must continue to fight until the last person.
Has there ever been an election in Nigeria which has focused the attention of the country as much as this one? An off-season statewide election rather than a national election?
I'm not sure. There was a lot of attention on the Osun election at a point. I think the attention on Anambra is largely because of IPOP and the challenges of insecurity in the Southeast in general.
Okay.
I think that's what makes it stand out. And of course, it's an off-season election.
So why does that make it stand out?
It's standing out because IPOP has said there will not be election. They retracted, from what I read, while we know some groups are still trying to enforce it. And the state itself has to enforce the fact that it's still a sovereign state. It cannot be dictated by non-state actors. So it's important for the state to show, that Anambra State is not an ungoverned space, that it's still one of the areas where it has control. So we're going to see how it is. The question is it going to hold? I'm actually happy that INEC, or rather it's expected INEC said it will hold, and the government supported it. For the same reason that the election held even in Borno at the heat of the Boko Haram insurrection. If the government said, well, because of the crisis, because of the all the killings going on, we will not hold the election, it means accepting the fact that you have ceded that territory to Boko Haram and other non-state actors, and therefore it's an ungoverned space.
Mr. Jide, does the federal government face any threat in Anambra State that is different from the threats that it faces elsewhere in the country?
I'm not sure that would be a good characterization of what we have on ground. Okay. It's not the first time Nigerian states will be facing threat of secession. Okay. Even in the same Southeast, we have had previously threat of secession. Yeah. And don't forget, after the nullification or annulment of June 12 election, June 12, 1993 election, similar agitation
happened in the Southwest.
Happened in Southwest. Okay. So, and this is not even a region-wide challenge. This is a statewide challenge for now, looking in the context of Anambra. But if you look at region, yes, you say 5 states, and 5 is significant, even though 31 others are not in that region. But be that as it may, I think it's a general reflection of where we have come to, the sorry pass we have come to in our national life as a Nigerian. There used to be a time nobody believes there will be a suicide bomber in Nigeria because we used to be the happiest people on earth. So how can happy people on earth, the happiest people on earth,
themselves.
now blow themselves up?
And Nigerians love life.
And you never would believe that there will be mass abduction of students in school repeatedly over the way it has happened since 2019.
So what are the causes of these things?
Well, the cost is, there are a number of variables. Poverty, unemployment, lack of equity, justice, and fairness, and also the weakness of this Nigerian state to enforce its own rules. What I can throw out there. But it happened in different degrees across different regions. Take for instance, the banditry that is going on in the Northwest and North Central. Would the characterization have not been different if it's not a northerner and somebody from that geopolitical zone that is the president?
Okay.
Assuming without considering that it's a Southeasterner or a Yoruba man that is the president, and that level of killing banditry is going on in the Northwest. They say, oh, what do you expect? It's not from there.
This idea of elections, mobilizing voters, to what end? Why should voters even bother to go out to vote?
Actually, the reason why voters should bother to come out is what motivates them to vote for the present government.
Okay.
Expectations, expecting to have it better,
okay,
especially in the north. We are very backward in education. We are very poor. The poverty is more telling on us in the north. But unfortunately, we are not lucky with the government, actually, because we're expecting them to turn around and
help us develop, educate, and empower our people. Unfortunately, the government is more concerned about sustaining itself, about being accepted by our other brothers. So the appointments made that to bring development were mostly tilted towards the other side. And naturally, the style of government, of Buhari government, is a minister comes up with his programs, with requests, and the council sees and approve it. So the Minister of Works continuously brought recommendations for roads and developments in his own part of the area, and this is true.
How true is that? Are you saying that there are no roads for in other parts of the country, particularly in northern Nigeria?
There are no roads. The Kano Maiduguri road was started even before, around Abacha regime. It is still not completed. The Kano Katsina road, as short as it is, was started during Adwa, but it's still not completed. Still in progress. But look at Lagos, Ibadan, look at Abeokuta, Lagos, look at all these roads in the south. I was there in the southeast. You see, so naturally you can't blame the minister for that. If we had appointed a minister who knows the terrain here, I'm sure he would have brought...
Are you saying that the President Buhari should have appointed a northerner as a minister of works?
Since he knows we don't have roads. Since he knows we have agricultural products to be brought out from our villages. Since we have vast land, we need more roads than they do in the south, and they have more roads there. I will just give this as an example. And there are many other things lacking. Was employment or other opportunities.
We have Minister of Defense from northern Nigeria, the Inspector General of Police from northern Nigeria, and yet the Minister of, the Chief of Army Staff from northern Nigeria, Chief of Naval Staff from northern Nigeria, Chief of Air Staff from there. I think it's only Chief of Defense Staff that's from southern Nigeria. And yet, insecurity is prevailing. Is it about where the appointees come from or what they can do?
No,
or the commitment that they have?
The commitment and the capacity of the man to select the kind of people...
The individual ministers.
That can do the work. The capacity. I think some capacity is lacking somewhere. Because... I know Buhari very well.
Okay.
He's the kind of person that if he trusts you, you can never make any mistake. If you are good in massaging his ego, you can go out with anything.
But Senator, the real issue here is the northern voters. Elsewhere in the world, when people do go to vote, they do so with the expectations that if their party wins, or if their candidate wins, there are certain concrete policies that will be implemented for their benefit.
Yes.
So the whole idea of our discussion today is what sort of policies and how should these policies be articulated and formulated, and how should they be represented within the existing political parties that will benefit northern voters going ahead towards 2020.
Okay, what this time around, you're talking about this time.
Okay.
Now, what we expect from anybody emerging as the president is, number one, we want his blueprint.
Okay.
What do you have for the country?
Okay.
And then we'll look at it and see what is there for us.
Okay.
Especially areas where we have poverty. What do you have in your policies that will alleviate that poverty? What do you have in your policies that will empower our people? What policies do you have that will educate our people? And then the people will decide, okay, we are going for this candidate or the other. In fact, most of us in the north, were insisting that we have to have president from the north. Because if you have somebody from your side, then maybe you can have a chance.
But we have a president from our side now.
Yes, unfortunately,
you are saying that
unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately,
living up to expectations.
Unfortunately, yes, because he knows the kind of person. I'm sure we'll never have somebody like him. We'll have a listening president. Buhari is completely not listening. he doesn't listen to anybody. He gives you authority, responsibility, and authority together. He doesn't care to check. During his first regime, I had the opportunity to sit with him, advise him to please monitor projects, monitor whatever.
First regime, you mean in 1984?
No.
2015 to 2019.
The first tenure of this regime.
Okay.
I advised him to please, sir, your problem is once you give somebody responsibility, authority, you give them the responsibility to do it, and you never check. And that is what has been happening. Whatever they tell him, he believes it. And no matter how people cry, he doesn't listen. That is the problem. It is not a listening president. That is what I said. And I don't think we can get a listening person like him.
What does it really mean if a government spends 88 or 90% of its revenue on itself? What does it mean for the rest of the country?
Well, it means it is not governing. Government means you deliver public goods to citizens. Public goods would be security, infrastructure, health, all the services the people need. Providing those services means you are investing in producing those services people need. Now, when you spend, and actually over the past 10 years, it's over 90% of the budget that's devoted to current expenditure, which means they are not investing in providing services. And if Nigeria is in a crisis today, a security crisis, an employment crisis, a health crisis, a jobs crisis, it's precisely because government has not been governing. There was a famous book Rufai and I read as a student, What Does the Ruling Class Do When It Rules? And the answer to that is that it produces services for citizens. When citizens are satisfied with those services, the government continues in power. When they are not, the moment to change that government has come. The irony in this country is that we've been changing governments, but both the previous and current governments are not governing, are not producing services, and are therefore investing all the revenue of the country on themselves rather than on the people.
Thank you. Prof, at the end of the PDP government, one of the promises that the APC government made was they were going to reform governance. They were going to make governance to be more sensitive to Nigerians. And yet, this 90% of budget encompasses 6 years of the present government and 4 years of the previous governments. Does it mean nothing has changed that in the country?
Well, first and foremost, since this is the first time I'm coming to this studio, let me, on behalf of my colleague, congratulate the Trust Media.
Thank you.
For growing from strength to strength. First as a newspaper, podcast, and a full television station. It's no small job. Therefore, we commend you and we pray for you to succeed.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
The point you have asked is that, yes, as Professor Jibril has said, the idea of governance is that you have to balance between long-term investment and what you call recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure. And therefore, in doing that, you also have to calculate your earnings, either actual or anticipated earnings. So over a period of time, a country like Nigeria, which has been running as an independent country for over 60 years, should be able to know its priorities, should have a goal to achieve, should have a clear focus. If, for example, you are building for the future, then obviously you have to spend a lot of money on education. You also have to spend a lot of money on healthcare. You also have to spend a lot of money on infrastructure. Of course, you have to spend a lot of money on security. Some of these investments could be short-term investments, maybe within one budget cycle. Some could go over more than several budget cycles. Some could even be up to maybe 5-year plan, 10-year plan. But in doing that, you also have to look at what are the essentials that you have to do, daily expenditure, things related to either the security or managing your employers or employees. So in effect, you cannot spend all your money on recurring expenditure and expect to have long-term plan. You have to balance, but I think what we're having is, and it's not a question of, I wanted to shift this argument, not a question of APC or PDP. It's been there for a long time.
Okay.
Some of these things predate the return to democracy. But maybe some of them become much more clearer and sharper now.
So Ajay, let me put the question to you straight. Where are the women in 2023 electioneering so far?
Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, to this question, I can simply say the women are nowhere to be found in our politics of today.
Okay.
Because up till now, as we are talking, the voice of women and the participation of women in Nigeria does not matter to the leadership of all the political parties in our country. That's where we are.
Okay.
Yes.
So why is this so? Is it that the women themselves are not bringing themselves forward? Because politics is about interest. It's about, that zeal, that passion to want to be there, to offer yourself for service. So is it that the women are not pushing themselves forward, or that there are no opportunities for them to even push themselves forward?
Actually, women, if you look at the history of politics in Nigeria, or even our independence, Nigeria's women participated effectively. In fact, they are the arrowhead of our independence. Because we all know the barriers where Nigerian women stood up against the foreign government, the British government. And politics in Nigeria, since independence, women have been very active. They have participated effectively. And formation of political parties, when you have the founding fathers, you have the founding mothers, because we've always been there with them. And we participated effectively in running or the formation of the parties, the development of the parties. The women are there because we always work together with the male gender. Each time they call meetings, you find all the women. You will be there with them. When decisions are taken, that's why you don't hear the voice of the women. Because they are not in the decision-making process of the parties. Not to talk of, when it comes to elective positions. Initially, when we started, at least we had a better chance because we had so many women in the Senate, so many women in the National Assembly, the state assemblies. Instead for it to be growing, we are going down. So I don't understand why the situation is like this. All over the world, they are now realizing that the voice of the women is also important. It's their country. Nigeria is our country. It belongs to all of us.
Both the men and the women.
Both the men and the women. And I always say that if we go to school, from primary school, secondary school, up to university, we are all there. We have co-education. You have the girls and the boys. And we sit the same exams. We graduate. We get employments. In the Nigerian constitution, it's not discriminating against anybody when it comes to employment in Nigeria.
Interesting.
But when it comes to politics, that's when you hear the word the women, the female gender, 35% or whatever percent. That's when percentage comes in. And okay, agreed. Let us get the percentage. Are we implementing it?
Okay.
Nigeria in 2006 approved the United Nations position of the 35%.
Yes, the Beijing.
Yes. Women world over had a meeting in the Beijing conference, where the 35% was agreed. And Nigeria participated, and Nigeria adopted it. But up to today, as we are talking, nothing has happened to the 35%.
Thank you for staying with us. Do join us again for another episode of Daily Politics. I am Suleiman. Enjoy the rest of your day.